Hey everyone, welcome in to another daily editorial here on the KE Report. We're getting an update from PRYM Mining. We're talking with the new CEO, Scott Hicks. Scott moved up to the CEO role February 1st of this year, 2024, taking over for Dan Kunz, who moved into retirement. We're going to be, in a way, reintroducing all of you to the company's Los Reyes Project in Sinaloa, Mexico. The company last year updated the mineral resource, pretty much doubling that high-grade resource. Also completed a lot of drilling and has a lot of drilling on tap for this year with a healthy cash balance. So a lot for us to talk about with Scott. PRYM Mining is traded on the TSX under the symbol PRYM and on the OTCQX under the symbol PRMNF. Now, Scott, welcome to the show. Since this is your first time on the show, please give us a little intro to what your vision is for the company here moving forward with the Los Reyes project, please.
Great. Well, thank you very much for starters for having me. Pleasure to be on the show. Certainly my vision, and this is a shared vision between Dan and I. We had an excellent transition period, pretty much 18 months. I joined the company in August 2022 with the vision that I would eventually be taking over the helm from Dan. And Dan is still very much part of the company right now. Had a great technical workshop, and I love getting his input. For my vision, if you will, and some of the input that I've already provided in the past is we're really looking to decide how much and how far we want to push Los Reyes in terms of exploration, and at what point we start to move from that exploration story into more of a project development study, project optimization, value creation stage through engineering and optimization. So next up for us is continued exploration. We've got a lot of runway ahead of us still. As you said, we just doubled the resource effectively last year, getting to over 2.2 million gold equivalent ounces. We would like to think that we could probably double that again. So the really tough decision in the strategy revolves around when do we focus as much on engineering and project study as we do on exploration? That's probably the key strategic question for us.
Okay, Scott. So striking the balance between the de-risking and the development side and further exploring and expanding the resources. Let's start with the expansion of resource potential first. You did a lot of drilling last year. You've got a lot of drilling on tap this year. What are the key areas of growth and key targets where you see the resources continuing to grow?
Yeah, so we put 60,000 meters of drilling in last year in 2023. That 60,000 meters is over and above anything that was in that 2023 resource update. So as you've mentioned, we've put significant drilling in, significant investment last year. 2024, we're coming out of the gate. Our budgeted drilling meters is 40,000 meters. And with that 40,000 meters, we're looking pretty lean. We're looking to be efficient and looking to follow up on some of the most highly prospective areas coming out of the 2023 drilling. And that's going to be divided somewhat between resource expansion, so drilling in the known resource areas, and also looking at what we refer to as in our press releases as generative drilling. So where do we look to pick up the next splays, the next main areas? So where can we go to next? And that's a little more traditional exploration, if you will, relying on a lot of the great surface mapping, trenching, target identification that's been done in the past. So starting to follow up on some of those areas now with drill holes.
So can you give us a little bit more information then? 40,000 meter program. What is the allocation of those meters between resource expansion and what sounds like this new discovery type drilling?
Yeah, so we plan to put about 2/3 of that into expanding down dip, along strike, down plunge of the three main resource areas that we have. So for orientation, our three known main resource trends going west to east is ZT. Then we have Central, and then Guadalupe is the furthest to the east. In ZT in 2023, as you can see in some of our really exciting press releases, we've had a lot of extensions along the southern end of Tahanitas, so right at the very far south. We've developed a couple of new high-grade areas as well as down dip. So extending down dip, we've hit some absolutely fantastic intersections, wide, multi-gram per ton gold equivalent. So a lot of focus on the southern end of ZT. We are focused as well on the southern end extending the central area. So Noche Buena in the resource was a fantastic pit. We're looking to see whether Noche Buena in the next pit up from it, San Miguel East, whether that might merge like ZT did as well. So a lot of prospectivity between ZT and Central. And of course, Guadalupe East is one of the highest grade pit areas that we have in that known resource. So we're doing some follow-up drilling already in 2024 on that, on the back of some absolutely incredible holes in that area, including one just as recently as January 10th, we put in an excellent hole in the Guadalupe East area. So 2/3 on those three main resource trends. And then 1/3, we're following up on some excellent drilling. A couple of the highest priority targets for us in that generative category. Los Primas. Los Primas was also part of that January 10th press release, and we're seeing 15 grams per ton gold equivalent over some narrow intersections, but still high multi-gram per ton gold equivalent over wider areas. So it could be the next emerging potential resource area with some follow-up. It sits halfway between Central and Guadalupe East, so well within our base of operations. The other one that's really interesting we're going to follow up a little bit later this year on is Fresnillo. Fresnillo sits halfway between the ZT resource trend and the Central resource trend. So there's a lot of, it's not infill drilling from a resource confidence point of view. It's really filling in some of these lesser drilled areas between those known resource trends. We have Mariposa up at the end of north end of ZT. It's an emerging underground target, is probably how I'd characterize it. And then the northeast of the property, we've done a lot of surface mapping, trenching, soil sampling. There are a ton of targets up there, such as Orito, that just haven't had really enough drilling exploration done on it yet. So a lot of targets, 40,000 meters. We're certainly forcing our geology team to prioritize where it is that they drill, where they drill next, and how they spend those meters.
Yeah, Scott, it sounds like a cram-packed year with all of those different generative targets in addition to the three main areas that you're going to continue to press your bets on. Now, you also mentioned the team is working on some other de-risking in the background. Are you doing any metallurgical test work? Are you doing anything to, I guess, look at a development strategy around this project?
Yeah, so the nice thing about the Los Reyes project is previous operators, including, say, Vista, they had done some pretty detailed technical work in the past. They'd done some column leach testing. They'd done some bottle roll testing. So they laid a pretty good foundation for us for where we think we need to do a lot of our technical de-risking. In the time that PRYM Mining has owned the project, we have actually done several dozen bottle roll tests and other metallurgical test work. So there's a lot there for us to build on. We've got pretty good confidence in the technical inputs around metallurgy, slope parameters, costs that went into that last resource update, the May 2023 resource update. But given my technical background, I'd really like to push some of that a little bit further. We don't have plans at this point to do a public PEA. We certainly internally will run an economic ruler over what the Los Reyes project might look like, just to help focus us in our engineering and study work. But some of that is still well into the future. But there is quite a bit of work that's been done in the past, and quite a few things that we're looking forward to completing in 2024. And I think as time progresses, we'll be in a better position to share some of the metallurgical test work results and some of the other great work that we're doing. Certainly would be inputs to some of the optimization work and eventual PEA and eventual PFS work that we'd look to do.
So let's get just a quick recap of the most recent mineral resource. You mentioned it already, but let's dive into some of the components of it. Just under 1.5 million ounces gold equivalent in the indicated category at about 1.68 grams per ton average grade. We also have an inferred resource here of 730,000 ounces. That's also gold equivalent. Give us an understanding of the allocation of this resource between trends, between different areas on this project, please.
Yeah, it certainly can, and I might break it down a couple different ways for you. The first way, as you said, breaking it down, if you will, into inferred and indicated. A couple interesting ways to look at the project is much by area. ZT has about half of the overall ounces in the resource, and they're at good grades, good widths. Guadalupe East has about half of the indicated total ounces. What's spectacular is the grade in Guadalupe East. So about 1/3 of the total ounces in the resource come from Guadalupe already at that indicated level, and the grade there is 1.6 grams per ton out of Guadalupe. Perhaps a better way to look at the breakdown in the resource estimate is that the vast majority of the ounces from these economic pits, and again, it's strictly open pit so far in the 43-101 work that we've done, 2/3 of the total ounces are indicated through the mill. And the grade of that is 2.44 grams per ton gold equivalent. So breaking down that gold equivalent, it's 1.66 grams per ton gold and about 60 grams per ton silver. And again, it's all already indicated. And that's a high confidence indicated for us. Again, given the fact that most of the team comes from senior gold miners and senior mining in general, we've taken a bit of a different approach to this than I think a lot of junior exploration companies. Our independent QP was the qualified person who reported to me at Kinross. So we've put a lot of rigor into this. To highlight that again, 2/3, 1.3 million gold equivalent ounces through a mill at 2.44 grams per ton gold equivalent. Those are ounces that will certainly stand the test of time and certainly stand up to more detailed engineering and study. There is a component that we've looked at as well in that most recent resource that looks at heap leach. So there are a couple hundred, call it several 100,000 ounces that come through that heap leach. The average grade of those are about 0.5 grams per ton gold equivalent, so a little bit lower. We haven't turned our back on the heap leach. The heap leach was the original hypothesis for the Los Reyes project. It's just, again, with the high grade nature of the ore that we see, a lot of that material really wants to go through the mill instead of a heap leach. We have hit in Guadalupe East, especially, almost an ounce per ton gold with almost a kilogram of silver. And that is not material that you'd want to put on a heap leach. But nonetheless, we've included in the resource, and we'll see how that plays out as we do further economic study.
Scott, appreciate you breaking down all the details there on the resource. And we've talked about the drilling to come. We've talked about some of the de-risking and development work to come. Let's also talk about the site access, the infrastructure. You're in Sinaloa. Tell us about how the site is positioned and just the mining district that you're in. Sinaloa is a very prolific mining district.
Yeah, it's certainly a very mining prolific district within a mining prolific country. Where we are in Sinaloa, we've got good access. Our base of operations is out of Cosalá, and that's where our geologists live. That's where a lot of our staff live. In terms of road access, it's by no means remote. So Cosalá is easy to get to. It's a national tourist destination. It's a magical town. So they refer to it as a Pueblo Mágico. So there's a lot of people there that are there contributing to tourism. That makes it a safe, beautiful place, and it's great for families to live. So that's where we call home, effectively in Cosalá. There's a good population there, 17,000 people. A lot of them are focused on trades, operations. There's some mining, a lot of geologists. So it's a good population base to draw from. We are about 40 minutes to the edge of the property on a project road from Cosalá to Los Reyes. And then there's a good road network. We continue to develop it for exploration purposes, but there's a good road network that gets us all the way in. We can go back and forth easily in a day. We don't have a camp set up at the Los Reyes property. Again, it's accessible from Cosalá. So roads are good. Transport is easy. There's also a power line that comes right through the heart of the property. We haven't done a power study yet to see if that's sufficient for operations, but it's nice to know that the easement or the right-of-way is there. There's poles there. So if you have to upgrade the electrical system, that's fine. We'd be happy to do it. It's just nice to know that that infrastructure is in place. And if we were optimists, that current power source is hydropower. So if there is capacity available for us, that would be a bonus. But again, more work to come on that. Water is top of mind. It's seasonally dry and seasonally wet where we are. There is water available to us for drilling. We have no issues with that. Most of it we collect from surface water. We do have some wells, and we use those wells to top up our exploration water when we need. We also help out some of the agrarian communities in the neighborhood as well, whether they need it for livestock or crops. So we support the community a little bit as well with our water trucks. And we believe that there's a very good water source and aquifer that's in our land concession in the southwest corner. So we've got to do some more test work there, some pumping studies. We have leased a well that's down that way, and see how we're doing in terms of water. But in terms of power, water, access, people transport, I think we're in a very good location with where we are at Los Reyes.
So, Scott, let's also talk about a cash position for the company and the budget for this year's work program, including that 40,000-meter drill program, please.
Yeah, for sure. So we did a really good financing at the end of 2022 with an accelerated warrant that pulled some cash in early last year in 2023. So we were able to fund that 60,000 meters of drilling we did last year and still have just over $30 million Canadian left in the bank at year end 2023, from which to fund our 2024 work program. So we're in a pretty good financial situation from a cash perspective. We like to believe that we're fully funded through mid 2025. And at that point, we've got some warrants that are currently well in the money, held by some of our founders, board, and other people who want to be more along PRYM mining. Those expire mid 2025. It might be great timing for us to rebuild our cash at that point. And that would provide almost another full year of funding to us without further dilution, if you will, compared to fully diluted shares currently outstanding. So again, we're fully funded through mid 2025 with a good option to get us about an additional year of funding. If we were to push ahead with project evaluation, project study, we like to think that we may almost be in a position where heading into a PFS or maybe even into a construction decision, that we're fully funded to get there. So it's a bit of a unique competitive advantage in the current equity market. It's a good place for us to be.
Yeah, Scott, that is a good position to be in, to have the funds to keep moving all of these initiatives forward. I guess just wrap us up with the big picture look at the news on tap for the rest of this year. What are the key milestones you want investors to be looking out for, and anything else you'd like investors to know about PRYM mining?
Yeah, certainly the near-term catalysts for us are continued success with drilling. So we will get back into a good regular cadence of news flow on drilling success in both those generative areas, those new areas such as Las Primas. We've done some good drilling in Q1 there, so look for some good news out of that area, as well as extensions, as we said, especially in that southern extension of ZT. So the area we specifically refer to as Tahanitas. So we're expecting some good results from our drilling out of there. And then we'll start seeing if we can trickle in some good news on some of the early engineering work that we're doing to, again, eventually progress this project. So I think there'll be some good continued news flow throughout 2024 for us as we continue to build on our extensive drilling program. Hopefully we can also put in a couple new generative areas as well. So areas like Fresnillo and Mariposa, and maybe even some to the northeast. Some of those other areas outside the current resource footprint.
All right, Scott, thank you very much for the introduction to yourself and the big picture plans for PRYM mining at the Los Reyes Project. If anyone has any follow-up questions for Scott and the team over at PRYM Mining, please email us. We'll get those addressed for you. And Scott, please keep us up to date on future news.
Thank you very much.